Hello, folks. This is Mike, and I'm doing a surprise early live lesson recording for this Thursday's self-publishing lesson. And this is not the lesson I intended to teach, but it is an important one. And it is definitely about self-publishing, and it is definitely a valid lesson to learn, and something, even though I have experience, I need to remind myself of. And that is, I teach workflows to increase the speed and efficiency and time it takes to produce your creative work. But that doesn't mean that you should rush something. It doesn't mean that you should cut corners. It doesn't mean that you should just throw together whatever. And I understand on school, we know we go ahead when things aren't ready and we improve as we go along, and that's great. But in this case, um, I have been rushing. Um, I've been putting too much in my schedule, and I've been trying to push things out too quickly before they're ready. And a prime example of that is the Writing Zombies book. Some of you have seen it already. It's available on School. Um, and right now, I've previously shown setting it up to publish on Draft to Digital. And here's the thing, is that I'm not really happy with the alterations made on Draft to Digital. I was willing to accept that the artwork was converted to black and white. I knew going in that Draft to Digital didn't do full color for anything, but it also added some weird margins, which I didn't like, and I haven't had time to figure out or fix. And it's already on pre-order for digital. It is not ready for print. And what I think I'm going to do is uh, I'm going to take a new approach to this, and I'm going to try and actually cancel this so that it doesn't come out tomorrow. So I'm going to hit delist ebook because it's not ready. It's not what I want my work to be represented as. And that's important. You want to put your best foot forward. And if you know that something isn't ready, um, I set the release deadline arbitrarily, and I thought lots of time. And, I got derailed by life and other projects and things. So I have delisted the book. It will take a couple days to update. Um, and I may not even go through Draft to Digital for this book. I'd like to have it presented in the best way possible. And I think there's a lot to be gained by publishing the artwork in it in color. And so that means that I would either have to publish it with Ingram, who we know I have issues with, and I don't trust them to actually produce covers and pages that match. After working with them for years, you guys can go back and watch videos if you don't know what I'm talking about. But unfortunately, even though Ingram's one of the largest book distributors in the world, I can't recommend the quality of their work when it comes to print and distribution. So that means I'm going to publish it on books.by, or what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take a beat. I'm going to postpone it for a few months, and I'm actually going to shop it around to agents first, um, and see if I can get them to take the work of the self-publishing side of things off of my plate. Um, and that's just a creative choice for me. That doesn't mean that I don't want to self-publish. In fact, I'm doing more of that than ever before, and it is what I recommend to most people, because if you can find the right formula, it's the same thing that worked for Image Comics when they started. If you're not aware, Image Comics is a comic company that was founded by people who were writers and artists who left Marvel. And what they learned, one of the things they learned, was that because they were getting 100% of the profits, that they could sell less books and make more money than the projects they were doing for Marvel, where they were getting a very small percentage mathematically of the sales. And in fact, in most cases, the contracts were just paying a page rate and you didn't actually get a percentage of the sales. But if you look at their expenses and you average it out and blah, blah, blah. So it worked out to, these creators were maybe getting 5% of the sales and it went to, 100% of the sales. And suddenly they were making way more money selling way fewer books. And so that is generally the best formula for success in self-publishing is as long as you can get the sales up, you don't have to sell what the major publishers sell. Now, in the case of Image, they did even better because they came out of the gate outselling their competitors. And so they made even more than they could have hoped for. There were issues with that. If you look into the history, there are some early creators who ended up, you know, shooting stars that burnt out real quick because they weren't used to having that kind of money and ended up, you know, not prioritizing actually producing the comics and they fell behind. Um, so I just want this to be a lesson that sometimes you have to pick and choose. It's okay to learn how to produce creative work and finish it quickly and faster than you would in the traditional or old fashioned methods. But it's also okay to take your time to release it and perfect it. Um, Now, if you can do it super quick, like I have been, that's great. And that is my usual mode of operation. I have to stop myself, and I'm fighting with myself still right now because I know I could put this book out tomorrow. Literally, I could have this book listed all over the place for sale tomorrow. I could do it today. And so I have to suppress that desire for immediate gratification and think about what might be better in the long run. And in this case, I'd like more time for promotion. I'd like more time to shop it around. I'd like, a few things. And since I'm going to take the time, I might as well see if I can find an agent to represent it to other publishers. It does take a lot longer that way. And I'm only going to give it a few months and then I'll just put it out myself, to be quite honest, because I can do that. I've got, decades of experience. Since we're here, I'm going to show you another option for self-publishing as well. Now, this is a slightly different setup, but it's also a very valid option. And this is BookVault.app, A-P-P. And they do offer a selection. Now, they have printing facilities in Britain, United States, Australia, and Canada. And certain formats are only available, like, for example, you see Saddle Stitch, UK only. So Saddle Stitch is when the pages are printed at 11 by 17, trimmed, and then folded and stapled, which is a standard comic book or any book that's folded and stapled. Now, UK only doesn't mean you have to be in the UK to publish in that format. It means that it's printed in their UK facility, but it still ships to you. And they have some of the best individual price per unit costs. And you've got case bound with cloth, case bound laminated. You can get jackets. Now, what I really like about that, or what like about Book Vault, is besides all the sizes, options you can have, they have the most selection for full color and for paper quality. Um, you can mix in color and black and white pages, which is great. Most PODs don't do that. And then you can even do bespoke options. That's going to increase your price per unit a lot. But if you want to do a special edition that has a painted edge on the edges of the pages of your book, if you want to have a foil embossed cover, you want to do special editions, all possible, all print on demand and affordable. And you can order, I think the minimum is like 10 copies if you order them for yourself, but their distribution system isn't as widespread. Now, see, if we go look at sell here, these are all formats, or these are all platforms that they integrate with. They're not going to be for sale there automatically. Um, you can look at they do box sets and slip cases if you want to put a book set together. Um, what I'm trying to find, I can't remember the page I found it on, but they do have a listing that shows where their distribution is. And aside from the integration with different platforms, they do sell through Amazon. You can get Amazon distribution, as well as um, the Great British Bookshop. I believe their head office is in Britain. That would be why. So there is distribution. Amazon is the biggest bookseller in the world, so that can be an important target. And the Great British Bookshop is an established and reputable chain, so it kind of offers the best of both worlds, and it gives you features that you would only get from a large press when you're printing thousands of copies, but in a POD number. So it is something that I intend to explore in the future. Now, the difference is you're going to end up spending about $25 US per title to register it in their system, whereas Draft2Digital, Ingram Spark, Books.by, oh, sorry, I shouldn't say Books.by, Draft2Digital, Ingram Spark, and some other formats like Lulu, some other platforms, um, you don't have to pay per book for a setup fee. With Books.by, you do have to pay an annual system access fee, and you can publish as many books as you want. But you're looking at probably $200 a year on Books.by. Um, so BookVault, it may be a little bit more expensive to set up, but $25 US a book is not bad if you can do the promotion and get the selling going. And if you can make something that's really impressive and that people want to buy. So I just wanted to share this with you. This is another option. What I'm doing is I'm looking for an agent. Now, to elaborate, there are people out there, literary agents, book agents, those are generally the labels they use, where they find authors and illustrators and they represent their work to publishers and they say, hey, this guy has a book. This guy is a very talented artist. He can illustrate books for you. And the agent represents you. Um, and not everyone needs an agent. Most people in the comics industry don't have agents. I've had an agent previously for acting work when I used to do acting more. I did some acting again in the fall, but I used to do it regularly, and I hadn't done it in years. And things have progressed now where you don't even necessarily need an agent. I know people who are finding their own acting gigs online, but there are a lot of large established publishing companies who will not review material unless it's being presented to them by an agent. So what I'm really trying to achieve with writing zombies and looking for an agent is finding someone to represent me and sell that book idea to a publisher. Now, is that more or less profitable than self-publishing? It can go either way. Um, and it's just something that I want to explore. I haven't worked with a major publisher in a few years. I've been exclusively self-publishing for a while because um, there's a lot less hassle, because I've been taken advantage of and um, been given bad deals by publishers in the past. But I don't want to limit myself or cut myself off of future opportunity because of previous bad experiences. And I think it's just because I'm in a better place creatively and professionally right now, where in the past I've missed things that I should have had a lawyer read over, and I just didn't have access or funds at the time. And now I do. Now I have access to a legal expert, so I can have them review contracts before I agree to them, and catch anything that's missing. Um, and again, Uh, if I get a good offer, I can take it. If I get a bad offer, I can turn it down. And in the past, I maybe accepted offers I shouldn't have that I knew weren't good enough. And so now I just think I'm a lot more confident that I can approach this negotiation and say, listen, if you're not going to value my work, I can go publish it myself and make more money and use that as leverage in negotiation. If if I find a publisher, if I find an agent to represent me to publishers, great. If not, then the book's still going to come out anyway. And it'll give me more time to formulate promotion. It'll give me more time to formulate marketing and really make sure that the book gets the best launch that it can have and sells the most. Because at the end of the day, that's the important last step is you can spend 90 days writing a novel if you take the boot camp. You can spend months, however you want to do it. If you don't want to do, advanced workflows like I do to produce content quicker, that's fine. Um, but at the end of the day, if you just put out the book and you don't tell anyone, if you don't promote it, if you don't do a press release, these are all things that we'll talk about in future lessons too, then you might not sell any. And then you're not getting any return on the time you've spent in creating the content, whether that time was less than normal or not, whether you did it in a fast track, whether you did it in 8 weeks as opposed to 6 months. At the end of the day, you have to sell the work in one way or another. And so I'm always experimenting and trying different things. That's why I'm showing you Book Vault. And these are all things that are legitimate approaches and legitimate issues that we have to face. And so why not share that with you and bring you along with me? And so that's what I'm doing. So check out Book Vault and also look into uh, literary agents if you want. And they are hard to get. I've been working in the industry for over 25 years. I've worked with major publishers. I still have a hard time finding agents who will actually look at my work. Um, That's just the nature of the industry. And it used to be a huge gate that was kept by certain people. And we know I don't like gatekeepers. And that's why I like having the option. Um, I will knock on this door. If it doesn't open in a reasonable amount of time, I'll carry on and I'll release it. And I'll make sure that I have a great book launch with a self published book. But I'm going to take the time to make sure that it's launched correctly. And since I'm taking the time, I'm going to shop it around and see if I can sell it. And when I say sell it, I mean the actual print rights for the book through an agent to a publisher. And if it doesn't, I end up selling it myself directly online anyway. And because I know how to sell a book, because I know how to produce them, I can be confident in knowing that I'm going to still make that time I've spent on it worthwhile. And that's really a big part of all of this creative work. At the end of the day, you've still got to sell it no matter what you do. So, anyway, take a look at Book Vault and keep an eye out for future updates on all of the things I've discussed and news about writing zombies and whether or not it gets an agent to represent it or whether I self publish it. Um, I'm going to give myself 2 to 3 months tops, though I'm hoping that it won't take that long, which can technically be unrealistic. Some publishers will take over a year to get a book produced and in print. I'm not super enthused about that idea, but we'll see. Again, if you're interested, you can check out Writing Zombies now in the school community, in the classroom, uh, and I believe you can access it with a premium membership or with a purchase.
This is a reminder. Change the dog water bowls.
And there's Alexa typically interrupting as usual. Alexa, stop. Anyway, thanks for joining me. We will catch up again later. Okay. That was this week's self-publishing lesson. I'll see you next time.